I've never seen someone so impatient, Billy. As if your life depended on getting the first copy off the presses.
Hey guys, so I apologize if my face is all red. It's really cold today. It's March and I'm in Dexter, Maine, or as the locals would probably say, Dexter. I'm here doing Creepshow 2 filming locations, at least for what was filmed in Maine. Creepshow 2 is one of those movies that not a lot of people really talk about or think about when it comes to some of Stephen King's best. And I'm not saying it's one of his best, but I figure it's about an hour and 45-minute drive from my house, so I figured I would just come check it out. I've never actually been to the filming locations for this movie. I've actually never been to this area before. It was kind of an interesting ride up here. But I thought, when I was a kid, Creepshow 2, I saw that really, really young. And it was one of those movies, for me, there's 3 shorts. You have Old Chief Woodenhead, you have The Raft, and you have The Hitchhiker. The Hitchhiker was the only one filmed in Maine. But I saw this movie as a kid, and it was one of my first introductions to horror at a really young age. I saw The Raft and terrified me. And I remember when this movie came on, it was, it starts with the cartoon. And so, as a kid, you're just watching the cartoon. You don't really know what you're in for. And then when it turns scary and a little sinister, at my age at the time, it left a pretty big impact. So I figured, you know what? This is in my home state. It's not that far from where I live. Why don't I spend a little bit of time and kind of come check out the filming locations? So I'm currently parked just outside of the opening of the film, where the creep shows up in the truck and the little boy, Billy, is waiting to get the latest copy of the new Creepshow comic book. So let's take a look and see how it looks today. Okay guys, so this is it. This is 33 Main Street in Dexter, Maine. This was the opening of Creepshow 2. And this is kind of hard to match up 100%, but it's sort of, the frame would be kind of like somewhere about like that, with a little bit of this kind of cut off. You only really see the corner of that building. But down here, right in front of that light post, is where the Creeps truck parks. Pulls up, and he opens the back, and Billy rides up on his bike, and he's really eager to get the latest magazine or comic book. Billy would have pulled up right here on his bike. You can see where the curb goes down. Now this has changed some. The curbing has changed since filming, as has this front here where Rennie's is now. You can kind of see where the brick building ends and then the Rennie's sign starts, and then again on the left-hand side back to the brick. Now this, back then it was the newsstand, so it's definitely changed, and you can see how the sidewalk area has changed as well. But this is it, and then you know, from the back of the truck, you get this shot here looking up that hill, which of course that basically looks exactly the same today. And then across the street, there's another shot. I tried to line it up earlier, but it's actually, excuse me, it's actually taken from much higher. And I can't get my tripod up that high. But there is a shot where you basically only see those two window fronts there. So it's kind of like that, but it's a really tight shot. And so you don't see the roof line of this Rennie's. It's kind of cut off, so you're basically seeing, you know, sort of like that. But it's taken from way up high, and I can't really get that angle, but you get the idea. I mean, that's basically it. There's no question this is the area. You can clearly see that clock up there in the background. And then, you know, the church steeple down the street. And I was trying to figure out where exactly the creep throws the comic books down on the sidewalk. Now, obviously, this sidewalk has been completely redone since then, but I believe it's somewhere around here. It's a close-up tight shot, so really could be anywhere. And you have these cracks, you know, in the sidewalk, which looks slightly different than how it was back then. So obviously this has been completely redone, but you have to assume, based on the truck being in this space right up here, that it's got to be down here on one of these cracks. And when the film cuts back to animation, or cuts to animation, you're kind of getting this sort of angle. You can see that street light in the background. And like I said, this Rennie's, this little section in here, this alcove, that's where the newsstand would have been, which obviously the storefront has completely changed, but it's kind of like this angle here, because you can see a little bit of trees in the background, and the truck is blocking this area up here. So pretty cool.
I think we've got time for one more creepy concoction, our last morbid masterpiece, which I call the Hitchhiker.
All right, so the first location from Creepshow to the Hitchhiker starts here in this building. This is the Franklin Place condominiums in downtown Bangor. And Annie parks her car right here, and you see her coming out sort of like, well, actually, it's kind of like that. Sort of like that. And she comes out of that little alcove right there. And her car's over here on the opposite side of the street, where she's been having an affair with somebody she works with. I have never been to this part of, never been down this road here in Bangor, or if I have, I've never knew that that's where this was. But this is what starts her off on her insane journey to get back to her husband. I suppose she deserved what she got. So I obviously can't get this angle, but this is where Annie's driving down Hammond Street and Main Street in Bangor. It was a crane shot, so it was filmed up high, and I know Like you can see this area right here on this building, it says bagel something. It's like a bagel shop. But the architecture of this kind of off-white creamy building is very recognizable, as well as the trim, if you will, the architecture above all those windows. I mean, it's definitely recognizable, but it's a very high shot, so that's about as high as I can get. So here's another angle where Annie's driving down this road. It's actually taken from the other side of the street, but it's really hard to match up the shot. So I'm doing it from this side, but you can clearly see on the sign in front of her car, you have the Junction 2 up there, and this is the old pole. It's still the same pole, the original pole. And then you have this building right here, across the street, directly across the street. You can make out these windows up here, and then these windows here on this corner building. You can't really see that brick building sandwiched between them in the particular shot that they got, but this is the best I'm going to get from where I'm at. So this is another one of those shots that's taken from up high, because you can definitely see the arches on these windows here in the shot. So it's from way up there, and Annie drives down this road here, and you can clearly tell that that's it because of these columns here on the right, which is the Bangor Chamber of Commerce. So she heads in that direction, crossing this little bridge here, if you will. So basically, Annie's a little lost because she just drives around in circles around these same roads over and over again, trying to get home. And if you look to the left of frame, right here, it said hair salon. And that's where the bridge begins, right along this street. You got those columns on the right. Unmistakable. Okay, so coming up here, we have the Union Street Bridge, where Annie drives across the bridge. Again, going in the wrong direction because she's actually driving back into town from all the places that she just was. But if you watch the scene, you can clearly see that like church steeple up there on the left in the shot where she's driving across the bridge. Which brings us back into downtown Bangor, which is all of the places that we just came from. So theoretically, she would have been driving in the opposite direction that I'm going right now, which I'm not entirely sure why we didn't do that. I'm guessing they liked the aesthetic look of that steeple in the background. This is the exit that Annie takes, where she's about to change her world forever when she hits the hitchhiker. And this is the infamous location where Annie hits the hitchhiker. Right here. So his body would have been laying right there in the road. This is I-395 eastbound on exit 5. What's kind of humorous about this scene is she's actually coming from the wrong direction. She's driving in the wrong direction. And at the time of filming, this exit was closed. So that's why they were able to pull that off. But this is the spot. Obviously very recognizable, the rock in the background. And you can clearly see where the hitchhiker would have been laying. Right there. Pretty damn cool. Could this have been from Annie's car? Now on this side of the road, this is the side of the road with the rock here and the sharp corner coming off the exit. There's another shot from right here where none other than Stephen King himself pulls up in a truck, stops to offer some assistance, and I don't remember what he says. He gets out of the truck and says something like,
"What the fuck happened? Looks like a black guy, huh?"
but that would have been right over there. His truck would have stopped and he would have come running across the street here to see if he could help. Another car stops and offers assistance as well. But yeah, that all happened right here. So this is actually where Annie, the first time the hitchhiker grabs onto the car, she stopped right here at this intersection, and which comes off of exit 5 and swerves and, you know, goes whichever way she ends up going. But that's where that was filmed. So that is actually geographically accurate. Okay, so interestingly enough, I found a little tip that said that the driving scenes where the hitchhiker's on the roof of the car reaching in and she's driving through the woods towards the end of the film was actually shot behind Edith Blake Library. And what's interesting is when I was mapping to the final location from the film, which is the house, the woman's house, the address, for anybody who wants to know, is 99 Foxglove Drive in Hampton, Maine. So I put that in, and as I'm approaching, I see that it's a retirement community. And as I'm driving into that spot, you know, I'm 1 minute away from my destination, I see a sign for Edith Blake Public Library, which is maybe less than a quarter of a mile away from the woman's house. Now, obviously, it was filmed in the woods, and it's really difficult to find a filming location in the woods, especially one that old. You know, trees have grown, trees have fallen down. But I am standing in the woods behind Edith Blake Library. I found a little tip online. Somebody had said they filmed those scenes behind the library, which would make sense because the library is right down the road from the house location. But I'm currently standing behind Edith Blake Library. And, you know, I'm on trails. There's a lot of walking trails here. As I said, it's a retirement community. So there's a lot of trails through the woods here. So it's entirely possible, or certainly would have been back then, for a car to get down some of these trails. Or maybe they were just dirt roads, or kind of dirt roads like skidder trails and things like that a car could easily get down. But there's just no way of knowing. That's the library there in the background here. But when you walk behind it, which is where I am, right here, I don't know if you can see, it's an embankment, and it goes way down, and there's like a river right there. So they couldn't have filmed too much in this particular area. But, and I am behind the library, So it's really hard to say. It's also possible that this whole area in the woods here wasn't as developed as it is now into this retirement community that it is now. I have no idea how long this has been here. But, so I'm going to walk around for a little bit and see if I can find anything that looks like it could have possibly been somewhere around here, but I don't really think I'm going to have much luck. But I'll poke around for a bit. But supposedly, somewhere in this area is where those scenes were filmed. The tip that I found, it was somebody who said that her and her friends had actually watched them do some of the filming when they were like teenagers or something. They saw them doing some of the car stuff in the woods behind the library. So that's really all I have, unfortunately, but that's where I am. And we'll see if I can come up with anything. Now, one thing I will say about this area is you can certainly see, I mean, these trails are certainly wide enough to move a car down through here. So, and you know, you can tell just by the trees that, I mean, it definitely looks familiar, the types of trees, the birch trees and this and that. And of course it's at night and the car is kind of bombing through the woods. I'm sure they beat the hell out of that car during filming. Which was the intention. So I don't think they had to worry about being too careful per se. But I just kind of wanted to take a walk down through here and see. This hill here is really steep. And just to see if it wasn't, you know, if this area is wide enough for a car to kind of drive through, you know. Now this particular spot that I'm walking definitely looks like it could be. You know, I mean, this is a very steep hill. I don't even think you'd be able to drive a car up here. But you could certainly drive a car down this. You know, I could picture it kind of bombing down through here, and I don't know. Could be way off base. But, like I said, all I had to go on is the tip that they filmed it behind the Edith Blake Library, and that is where I am. So, if it was here, it's anybody's guess exactly where that may have been. But I figured I'd just come and scope it out and get a little footage of the area just in case. But, yeah, see, you can definitely see, I don't want to call them roads, but, you know, wide enough openings for cars to kind of drive down through. So, and we get some homes over here. So, honestly, it could have been anywhere. Unfortunately, I don't really have much else to give or show. Certainly that's going to be a telltale sign, but not only that, but you know how film is, you know, they make it look like the car's driving all over the place through the woods, when in reality, maybe they just used a fairly small little area back here, a little stretch, and did everything. Just backed it up and drove it forward, and you know, so doesn't mean it wasn't here, but unfortunately I can't find anything to prove that. So at the end of the film, when the woman gets home, she would have driven right up this driveway right here. And you can see, it's kind of the shot here. And you can see that building right here to the left of the overhang. That would have been the garage. So they've completely bricked it off now, but that was an open garage. And she drives home, she drives into the garage, and the hitchhiker is still with her, the car, and basically strangles her. And then the camera from outside, the garage door closes, and then the husband comes home and pulls up right where that overhang is. Like, he's gonna pull into the garage, opens the garage door, and goes in and finds his dead wife in the front seat of the car. It's amazing how much this place has, it looks exactly the same, except for the garage, obviously, and now this overhang for the entrance. But this is in Hampton, Maine. Really interesting. So right there, Avalon Village office. That's where the garage was.
How you doing, lady? Thanks. Thanks for the ride.
Okay, so here we are at the end of Creepshow 2, where we see the creeper again. And the camera kind of pans along this area right here. There was chain link fence up here during the film. And it just kind of pans along this way. And then you get this angle down this road. Now, if you look, you can see that barn up there in the distance in the shot. What's really crazy to me is if you look at these pine trees right here, you can see a small one in the shot from the film. It was really small. And that is that tree in the front of those three. And that tree has gotten huge. Now again, you know, we're talking what, 40, almost 40 something years ago? So that's what 40 years worth of tree growth will do. But that's just insane. It's clearly visible in the shot, and it's much smaller. And you can get a much better look at this barn, you know, in the film, because there isn't as much growth on this side of the road. But basically, the camera, it's kind of tight. You know, it's kind of tight up on this tree line here, and it pans along like that until you get to the end of the chain link. And then you're looking up that road. So this here is basically the shot from the film, maybe pulled back just a smidge. And you can clearly make out the hills, the barn in the background, the tree, and that's it. So it's this shot, this angle. And the truck would have pulled out right here, kind of going that way a little, and then does a little swerving as the creep is in the back, and he's throwing out copies of the comic. But that's it. Ending shot of Creepshow 2. I like that. And that pretty much wraps it up for Creepshow 2. Everything that was filmed in Maine, anyway. We did the opening of the film, the closing of the film. Old Chief Woodenhead and The Raft were filmed in Arizona. So it was just The Hitchhiker filmed in Maine. And this is it. This is the end. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't think too many people have done any real filming location videos for Creepshow 2, at least in terms of what was filmed in Maine. So I figured where it wasn't really too far away that I would do that. So this is me signing off from exit 5, 395 eastbound in Bangor, Maine. Thanks for the ride, lady. Hey, lady. Hey, lady. Thanks for the ride.